Welcome to SBW Talks. Today we have Padmini Pandya. She's currently lives in South Florida. She's a multinational who has traveled, worked, and lived all around the world. Professionally, Padmini was a corporate strategist and an organizational psychologist. She worked in Asia for a decade in the tech industry, but upon coming back to the States several years ago, she has since reinvented herself as a storyteller. Welcome, Padmini.
Hi, nice to see you.
I know, I'm so excited to have you. For all of our guests, I have known Padmini from our Miami days, from almost 2 decades ago. She is still the same Padmini I met for the first time. Her warmth and positive vibe is still here today. We reconnected through LinkedIn, and me and her never get on LinkedIn, but I found her Pieces of Miss Minnie announcement. She has a YouTube channel called Pieces of Miss Minnie. And I just saw she posted something, and we, again, never really get on LinkedIn. Maybe it was just a connection to meet again. When I saw her post, I reached out and I said, "Would you like to be a guest on SBW Talks?" And she said, "Yes, why not?" So I'm so happy to have you, Padmini.
Thank you so much. It's been a lovely surprise to reconnect with you after all these years. I wouldn't have thought we wouldn't have, but I never would have thought we would have either. And,
Yeah.
it was a really, really lovely surprise to do so.
And for all of you, watch Pieces of Miss Minnie. I watched all her episodes, especially episode 3 of our mutual friends we had met from 20 years ago almost.
Yeah. So, I should probably explain Pieces of Miss Minnie before people get confused about what we're talking about in episodes. A couple months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, I started a YouTube channel and it's called Pieces of Miss Minnie as really an homage to so many of the pieces and artifacts I have bought, collected, remembered from around the world. And they can be anything. They can be literally handbags that have actually traveled the world with me and seen a lot of adventures with me, down to, jewelry I picked up in a village, or, something I bought on a business trip, or something I bought, on vacation with some idiot I was dating at the time, like whatever it is. But also the pieces, I think so much of it is really just going to boil down to memories and the lessons and the role that it played in your higher good and in your greater, grander story that you will eventually go on to live on into. It was really so many aspects of my life that, everyone told me I should write, and I'm getting to it. But it was really a way for me to express so many, the tagline is sharing the lessons of my life, one memory at a time. And I think, actually, I probably should have started there, and this introduction and explanation would have gone faster. Anyway, that's what it is. That's what it's called. And so, yes, episode 3 happened to do with an intersection that, you were very much a part of, but it was about my husband, my late ex-husband, who passed away almost 3 years ago now. So it's been a while. And we had been married. I was married in my 20s. I got divorced at 31. So I got divorced at 24, divorced at 31. I was married in my 20s when
Yeah.
everybody else was single and, dating and all the rest of it. But like professionally, we were all in the same place. And so anyway, it was about a period of time where for about 2 years, we had a relatively what I thought was a close group of friends who, we spent a lot of time with. We entertained extensively and lavishly. And when he passed away a decade later after our divorce, so there was no entanglement, but it was their behavior to intentionally ice me out as if somebody's tragic death was a sporting event and it required people to pick sides. It was an emotionally absurd experience that did really, really painful experience, just disrespectful experience that like would have already been a painful experience regardless. And it was sort of like their lack of participation with him throughout, the last 10 years of his life versus their sudden emotional theatrics about suddenly missing somebody you haven't stayed in contact with, and also being aggressive towards the one person who probably knew him better than anyone else on earth. And yeah, it was, that will still be a complicated lesson. But I think, not to really harbor on that intersection, but I think when we caught up, it brought up a lot of very interesting attributes about even what friendship means
Right.
and what role it plays and doesn't play in your life, and how really you overestimate it and you underestimate it as well. And, I think we hyper focus on romantic relationships, and those are obviously very key intersections of anybody's life and timeline. But a lot of friendships last a lot longer than an ex boyfriend. I can
Right.
attest to that. And, they are far more relevant. And sorry, not to go on, but I will say the one thing that I didn't realize I needed when you and I caught up, and it was
Right.
what, like a month and a half ago?
Right.
Not even, right? Like
Right.
6 weeks ago, we
6
had
weeks
talked
ago.
for the first time in like two
Years.
decades. Yeah. Like
But it was like we
15
picked up.
years or something, 20, like
Yeah.
12 years on the inside. Like,
But like we picked up right where we left off.
yeah. But what also I didn't know I needed healing wise, emotionally and spiritually, even, was that you validated so many of the things I had thought and kind of suspected, and that my intuition had always really, like, always in the back of my head was like, do not trust this like, do not take these compliments at face value. These are dangerous compliments. Like, and I think your read on so many of those people was so spot on, and you didn't hold back, which obviously, a woman like me appreciates. I didn't know I needed somebody else to see my reality,
Right.
to let me know it was true. And you saw my reality, and I didn't know how much I needed that until you gave that to me.
And I think that's where honesty comes in. And I think as friends, a lot of people are scared to tell you to your face what it is. And I think you just have to be honest. And I know the other side may not want to hear it, but when they do hear it, it's kind of like, oh, I just needed that
Yeah.
validation.
And it's like, you know what? That person who's honest with you, I trust that person. I like, if somebody is real enough to be like, you don't want to hear this, I'm not going to win any points telling you this. In fact, this could backfire, which is generally why people don't. But you're like, I like you and care about you enough that I'm going to be real with you, even if it means hurting your feelings. I trust that person next time.
Right. And I think we have,
That is a person I'm like, we're good.
yeah. And I think, again, as I'm saying, like, we're so scared of what the other person is thinking or feeling, like, we don't say anything honestly. And as you said, we overvalue a lot of our friends too.
Like, it's embarrassing when you look back at some people that you spent so much time with and so we're so involved with. Like,
Right.
and like, actually, nobody's life was all that interesting, but everyone wanted to feel like theirs was. And then
Right.
we like validated each other by trying to
Right.
make each other feel like your lives were like, get on with it. Like, we were, but especially I think in your 20s, it's like no one knows what they're doing. No one
No.
knows who they are. Like, that is just a messy time.
No, but I think we also had a good time. I mean, the parties you and Gary threw, you guys were inviting, always nice, warm vibe. We were in our 20s, we were immature, but I think you guys were both very inviting, just inviting us. You never let anyone feel left out. You made everyone feel included and inclusive, which I think a lot of people don't do that in today's day and age. And you did that 20 years ago.
I have never thought of it that way. Like, I never thought of all the things somebody would say and remember from those days. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think in today's day and age, it's people are just going out, having fun, taking pictures. We did that in our 20s, but we all like vibe together. We didn't stand with our iPhones and take pictures. We had
We
real
hardly have photos of those
Yeah, we
parties. I don't know where they are.
no. And we had real conversations. We had meaningful relationships. We would get together, go out, and it was Miami. We partied in South Beach like it was like no day tomorrow. But we still had those true friendships that we would meet up, we would go out, no drama, Padmini.
Yeah.
No,
No,
no
I'm
drama.
a no drama woman. People look at me and they think I'm drama, and I'm like, I'm really not. Like, I just want to hang out with my cats. Like, all I want to do is like eat popsicles and watch sci-fi. Like, I really like like,
Yeah.
no one. I thrive in solitude. Like, for me to hang out with people is a big deal.
Yeah, no. And I think it's a big deal for a lot of people, just where we are in society. I mean, I think social media is just, again, it's what you see, but it's not reality.
Yeah. No, was it, the question is, are we offended because we expected it to resemble reality? And so when it didn't, we were like, you don't look like reality. And it was like, I am Instagram. Like, what part of this was expected to look like reality? Like,
Right.
we didn't have this 20 years ago. You're like, this isn't a farm. Like, this is not a,
Yeah.
like, maybe it's like we wanted everything. Like, I don't know what, if it had reflected reality, wasn't why and I get what you're saying, like, psychologically and like the friendship department. Like, anyone who is aggressively trying to be happy, who like doesn't literally have it in their eyes and their aura and in
Right.
their energy. And if you can't see those, like, you know, three things, like, I assure you, like, just because they are in some like cheesy monochromatic like workout outfit, like drinking a juice, like, this is not like this is not health, like wellness. This is not happy. I don't mean like, this is not what happy is.
It's
This is
not.
what selling is. And that
Yeah.
is fine too. And that has its purpose as well. But like, I don't know, maybe the joke's on us because like we didn't have a precursor to social media, so we didn't know what to expect. And for whatever reason, we thought it should still fit into like the paradigm of like the 1950s. I think Instagram, I think all social media, I'm fascinated with TikTok. I think it really is actually just such a brilliant reflection of the like highs and like lows, like lots of lows of like human psyche right now. It'll tell you everything you need to know about the health of a society.
Right. Right. I don't know if it's going up or down of the health society. I think, as you said, there's a lot of things we can learn, and there's a lot of things that we need to step back and not read so intently.
Like the thing is, everything keeps changing. Like, culture keeps changing. The conversations we can have now are not even the conversations we had the vernacular to have, let alone the consciousness to have 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Like, I don't know how old you are. I'm 45. I was born
Yeah, I'm
in
47. Yeah.
1980. Like, the 80s and 90s, like, everything has changed. So it's like societies are in constant evolution. They are not stable. They are dynamic entities with billions of unpredictable variables. It's like the three body problem, but like, there is no way to actually like cultures are going to change. Societies are going to keep evolving. Like, now, we like, so we're almost the same age. Like, we grew up during the Monica Lewinsky
Yeah.
scandals and trials and witch hunt. And it's like, and now so much, and she's just a bit older than us. I think she's just 50 or something. And she says it so well, as, one can imagine. She's so articulate and so insightful, and strong is like an understatement. But how she says, like, how the society looked at her back then in the
Right.
late 90s, right? As
90.
to like how much society has grown and changed, and also how younger generations have really grown and changed so dramatically as well, that like, we didn't even have the words, we didn't even have like the construct, the paradigm. We looked at things in a very black and white, very, very like remedial patriarchal view. And even I think a lot of the women, it's like, we grew up, I was a teenager, I knew what they were doing was up. That wasn't like I believed it, but it was like, I never thought, as like a woman, let alone a brown woman and an immigrant woman, that like I would ever like be in a position to say anything.
Right.
We just like, the system was just so rigged and so cemented. And now it's like, no, 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 that system's actually been changing a lot. And like, people's minds are changing a lot, and they're learning and they're evolving. And that makes things very, very interesting. Obviously, like, I feel like humanity's like intellect has completely bifurcated, and like, there's like 50% you should not like worry about.
No. No, you're right. And I think, but another thing is I think before you and me got on this podcast, we were saying how these podcasts or like technology is really good in letting out our feelings. Before they used to be inside, and now we can just come out
Yeah.
and really talk about.
Yeah. No, I think like, a lot of the sound bites we even to use talking about social media, I think we need to even challenge them now, because it's like, I learn a lot like on TikTok. I learn a lot on TikTok. Like, that has really been a playground of various intellects. I have never come across. Phrasing things, saying it, putting things in a lot of different ways, but like I never realized there was so much talent as well in the world. Or
Right.
just like in every neighborhood, not in the world, not to make it hyperbolic. Like, of course, there's a lot of talent in the world, but like everywhere, in a lot of homes, in a lot of apartments, just in a lot of like, you don't know who is actually brilliant on the
Right.
inside.
Right.
And that has been super impressive.
That is impressive that people that used to be musicians, that's like a prime example. People who can sing or play an
Yeah.
instrument.
Or just like how funny people are, how
Yeah.
astute they are, how well they're able to like, you know, I've learned so even spiritually, esoterically, I have learned a lot on these platforms. So I can't say like, are there still girls posting thirst traps? Yes. Do I follow any of them? No. Do they end up on my feed? No. So do they bother me? No. Like, because they don't bother me. They actually, like, I just don't see them. Are they out there? Yes. Are they doing harm to other girls? Yes. They are young. They need parents. They need supervision. Like, they need leadership. But I think now, like, that old, like, very, kind of predatory form of like hyper female sexuality that like borders on.
It was there before, but in magazines.
It was
Remember?
in magazines and they would push the limit. It doesn't really matter. Like our standards of, we lived in a far more puritanical world back then and it was boring. So like, it was just like it was cheesy. Everybody was like getting excited about nothing. But like, I actually think what it means most is for the person participating in it.
Yes.
That's all that actually ultimately ever really matters. So
Right.
it's sort of like just how you want to portray yourself, how you want to exist in society, what you want to. It only ever comes down to the self. Nobody
Right.
gets to judge anybody. Doesn't None of your business. Like it doesn't matter. But like you have to be at peace with yourself.
That's the first thing and most important thing. Is just be at peace at yourself and don't worry about what other people are thinking. Just do what makes you happy.
I mean, you can worry sometimes, but like you still should do it anyway. Like, like I don't like I'm not one to give like good advice on those topics. I seem to always move in the opposite direction of what I'm supposed to.
No, but no, this is a good conversation. What else do you want to get out there, Padmini?
No, well, wait. We wanted to talk more about friendship. We were going to have a conversation about, I know that was like 20 minutes ago, but like we were going to have a conversation about friendship because I think like there's a lot, like I think we underestimate we underestimate and underestimate the importance of friendship, but we
Yeah.
actually like, we just like, we're too fixated on romantic relationships. And the truth is, like, there are friendships that can break your heart, really, really, really break your heart. And it's a different type of heartbreak, it's a different type of betrayal. And also looking at friendship just in like how you spend your time and your energy and like what you take seriously and preventing yourself from getting hurt later on when you actually know what you're dealing with and you're not like over romanticizing a friendship that like is just maybe like circumstantial.
No, that's so true. And as they said, like dealing with grief is also a big thing, even when your friendship dies, which no one
Mm-hmm.
discusses. I was on Instagram and I saw that when a friend passes away, like when your family passes away, you have that time off the company gives you. I forgot what it's called. But when a friend,
Bereavement.
yeah, bereavement. So when your friend passes away that you've spent so many years getting to know, that you don't get bereavement for that. And I think that
Yeah.
should be.
No. I know you have to like. I remember. Do you remember Gigi Genevieve?
Mm-mm.
You kind of overlapped at the same time, but sort of different groups. She was a friend of mine from BU, and she had CF, and she moved to Miami shortly after BU, or like a few years, after, and I was already there. And so we reconnected, and she was a lovely soul. She passed away while I was in Singapore. And I remember that. And I had a really, really
Heart.
loving boss who like understood. And I remember he even sent me home because like I tried to come to work that next day and I was like, and he was the one who was like, you do not need to be here today. And he knew she had passed away. And like, it's not like I had told him, all these stories about her. He didn't even know who she really was, but he understood, like a very close friend of mine did not make it through her illness. And she actually played a very pivotal role in my life at a very pivotal time.
Right.
And I stayed in her apartment for quite some time. One summer when she was away, shortly before I left my marriage and left for Asia. And I remember, and I had seen her a lot that summer. And really, like, there was that period of my life in 2011. There were only like two, three friends who really like knew what was going on. And she was one of them. And she sort of like, in her own very beautiful way, sort of like set me off and set me sail and really like helped carry me over the line those last couple months before I literally took off for Asia and left America behind for a decade.
Right. That must have been so hard, Padmini, just to see that person leave. It's like a part of your soul just departs with
Yeah.
them.
No, I think it's also a lot like, it's like how people have a hard time explaining the grief of a pet when a pet dies. And it's not the equivalent, but it's like that deep emotional bond that is, because like friendships are optional. Your family you were born into, you have to deal with them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for myself. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for everyone. Like, I'm sorry. But like, you don't get a choice. At least like, I know spiritually they all say you're born into the family that you want. Like, clearly I have made better choices in past lives, whatever. But friendships are completely optional. So I think the bond of a friendship, there is something also very, very beautiful in that because because it's not sexual. So if you have such a deep emotional connection that is really built on communication, or it should be. I think what people fail to realize is often they mistake activities like dinners and then of course the photos or whatever that we talked about, the big birthday parties or this or that, but like they mistake, oh, we always go to brunch together, oh, we always do this together, oh, we always, we're together, we go for drinks together, and they're always kind of basically somewhat having the same conversation, and maybe there's a good update or two to like carry that, but it's like real friendships are communication. And
Right.
it's really what they boil down to. Like the amount of time and the depth of that time and like the actual mutual understanding, like that is the fundamental foundation of a relationship. It is not the amount of hours spent doing stuff that isn't like that just sort of like requires consuming and dressing up. Like that usually isn't a good barometer. If you're playing sports together, it's a different thing, I get. But like, I'm not really one for groups. It's like statistically virtually impossible for me to like everyone in the group unless I curated it. Like if I curated it. So then I know I like the people there. But like I'm not one like I'm like let's go out with 10 people. Like there's no way. There's no way I even like 5 or 6 people who aren't at least curated by the people I've already curated. Like there's literally like 2 options. Otherwise, like no, like I don't know you. I don't really do like groups. Like yes, but I would say that I have friendships that are literally around the world. Like I could name like a number of cities where I would say I have more of an emotional, probably psychic connection at this point to, a really dear friend of mine in Manila than I, could say I did just because like, oh, I constantly see this person at this same bar.
Right.
And some of my friends, yeah, are in Florida. Some of them are in America. Some of them are not in America. And so that friendship, that also takes a whole different engine of like connection,
Right.
and energy and effort that doesn't have to do with, oh, you're not available.
And I think the definition of friendship is so different for some people. I feel like hopefully it's the same, that it's that connection you have with that individual, and it's not so much the pictures and the partying and the dinner parties and the birthday parties, but it's more of that conversation you have with that individual. And I think we realize that more as we get older. I think in our 20s, I mean, we were fine in our 20s. I mean, we still had deep conversations.
I mean, case in point, like the whole point of it was like I even overestimated the strength of those friendships. And I thought, and those to me were actually emotionally connected friendships. It was not an Instagrammy moment in history. Like
No.
it wasn't even there. So it was like I overestimated those friendships, and those actually had a solid amount of emotional connection in them. And, so I think like really reordering your priorities and how you like, and really being able to read, once you can read energy better, you can read the strength of connections better. And so I think like that is why, I would argue, 20 years ago, whenever we got to first know each other, our energy was always good back then. So then you reaching out to me, easily like 10, 12, 13 years since we had last spoken. I think because the energy had that kind of memory had already been like inscribed and it was already a signature that we both understood, that you reaching out to me, I was like, cool. I was like, I was not expecting to hear from you, but
Right.
it's great to hear from you.
And I think people we meet, and I read this sometimes, is you make an impact you don't realize you do. Because you're always talking, or you meet these people that you're like, hi, bye. But maybe that 5, 10 second conversation made an impact. And you see them again and you see them again. And it's not like an hour-long conversation you're having with these people, but maybe those 5, 10, 15 minute conversations, it's so deep that you have that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like that is something I'm just kind of like even earlier, like the introduction, how you said like the one thing you remember is how warm and
Yeah.
inclusive of like all things you could have said, of all the other directions you could have gone with that comment, you went there. And it was like, yeah, and had we never spoken again, I never would have known that. And I think there's, that is part of like memories that that's a part of memories I wish people shared more, because like you have no idea how much it means to that person. But like I underestimate it both ways. I think there have been times when I have underestimated what someone has said to me
Yeah, because me
to
and my
find
husband,
out.
no, every time we think of Padmini, it's Padmini and Gary. Me and my husband always say this. I mean, this was like back in 2004, 5,
I
6.
know.
This is like 20 years ago,
I
but we
can't
still
believe we were that young.
we were that young. We would go to South Beach, but I remember going up to your North Miami Beach apartment, and you'd have those lights there. You'd have people. You had those drinks, and you always made sure everyone was happy. You always made sure food was there, drinks were there, everything was available for your guests. You wanted them to be appreciated. Nowadays, we go to people's house, and you can't even get a glass of water. I'm being honest. And this is like 20 years ago, and in your 20s, and I think I would give credit to maybe your parents for instilling these values, because in your 20s, who are you going to learn that from? Your
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And extended family, I think like,
Yeah,
but I think like that was always, I think that's how I express love as well, is like I don't do it as much and I haven't in a very long time, but like I do when I do get to entertain and host people, I think that's when I really get to spoil them and really like give the people I like all the like goodies that will make them happy, and just like, have them come in one energy and like leave in a better energy.
right. And I think you guys did that the right way when we were in our 20s. And that's why I think we connected after so long, because you guys were both warm, positive, always smiling. I mean, you always had a smile, and Gary too, always smiling.
Yeah, I miss my lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, whenever we used to walk in, hey, how are you? Come on in, sit down or go get something to drink. Small things that I think people don't do nowadays. A lot of people
Yeah.
do, and a lot of people don't.
Don't. No, 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 it's true. It's very true.
And that's why after 20 years, we reconnected, because those are the little things you both did, and you welcomed us, because we weren't part of that big group, but we would
Yeah.
meet.
Yeah.
We'd be going out to happy hours and dancing in South Beach and having a good old time. And you came to our house too. You would come for dinner. But again, these are like the little things that people really need to be mindful of. With, you don't have to be best friends, but just be mindful of what you do to other people when you do meet them.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my friendships have come from very surprising places. One friend I met, a great friend of mine who is now in Mexico, like I met her at a yoga retreat on like this like random island, Koh Yao Noi, in the Gulf of Thailand. But it was like back, I know they have some resorts now, but back then it was a pretty rural island. And it was like this random yoga retreat that I went to that was like in the sticks, like again, lizards everywhere, like iguanas, like, but it was like this great retreat. And people had come in. I had like seen a flyer while I was in Krabi with somebody. I end up there and like, yeah, like that woman has seen me like burn down several, like I have like ended, there are quite a few friendships that I've had that like I never, and she's like 12 years younger than me or something. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we're not like,
It
but
doesn't matter of a friendship,
no,
I
it
feel.
doesn't. No, and that's the thing too. Is like you think friendships are like people at in your age with like, married, kids, whatever. And it's like I get it. And that is obviously exists. But like I would say now, like a lot of my current friends, like they're in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Like, and like they're like we're cool, like they're mature, I'm immature, like we meet in the middle.
I don't think friendship has a definition of who you connect with. As long
Yeah,
as they understand you and you understand them, that's all that matters.
yeah, yeah, but not like, people I think should spend more time on friendships, real friendships, less time on fake friendships. And they would have more money and they would have more peace of mind and they would be more rested. And I think real friendships are emotional and they are almost spiritual and they should be at some point in time. I think they are voluntary, they're
Yes.
optional. Everyone better remember that. Like, you don't, you can walk away from anybody, like especially a friendship. But I think it's also, underestimated at how callous some people are with friendships, like underestimating or pretending that what you shared didn't happen. And then that's when like a heartbreak, I've never like breakups, romantic breakups can break your heart depending on the circumstances, sure. But like by and large, like if you're breaking up with somebody, like they've already acted a fool. Like they've already given you every reason to
Yeah.
leave. Like now you're just embarrassed you stayed as long as you did. Like
Right.
now you're just like you're in operations mode. So like it doesn't really matter. Like on the backside of a friendship, like I got out of like a 1 year relationship with a man I thought I was gonna marry, and literally in 2 weeks I was like down 7 pounds. I was going out. I had all these new friends. My schedule was busy. You have no idea. Like I mourned it. I was upset for 2 weeks. And then like 2 weeks later I woke up and I was like, wait, I think my life is better. Like
Yeah.
a woman will get over a romantic relationship before it's done. By the time she's out the door, it was already over a while
Over.
ago. She
Yeah.
was just playing dumb. But like a lot of friendships can blindside you and really, really, really you up because you think that you have that kind of trust built in. You think that person is on your team. You don't think, they were posing as a fake friend to get close to you, to basically just sort of like learn from you and feed off you and sort of like use you as clout or whatever it is. Like people have crazy brains, and depending on where they are is basically how they're addressing what they can get from you or not. And it's like I don't know, I'm going off on too many tangents, I apologize. I'll leave, that's a complete thought, but like let's just leave it there.
Yeah, no, but Padmini, thank you for being on our podcast as a guest. We loved you.
Sorry, that was rambling.
No, you need to come back.
Okay, all right, well, like we'll hone it in because then we don't have to do the intro or anything, so then we don't have to give the background. We'll be like,
Yep.
watch the first episode and
Yeah.
then we'll actually like we'll stay on topic, whatever
Yeah.
that topic is.
No, but this was fun. I thank you, Padmini. Thanks to our viewers and listeners to coming to SBW Talks, and go watch, tell your podcast's name,
Pieces of Miss Minnie.
Pieces of Miss Minnie. Thanks everyone for watching, and we're going to put her YouTube channel up so you can go see her videos. Thanks everyone. Thanks, Padmini. Bye.